sporty, so you'll get a lot of kicks out of this. So this is what you need to ask yourself, guys. What is your mission? Because I reckon there's going to be a whole bunch of you from way up north, where I've just been, up in Maine, at the top of America, to all the way down here, down south in Florida, where we are right now, who are going to have different mission sets in mind for your ideal boat life. And whether that is staying dry and warm in the northern states or comfortable and cool in the air conditioning down here in the southern states, I suspect that's where this Wellcraft 435 is going to be of great value to you. So in this video, we're just going to do a bit of a simulation, essentially. We're just going to take the boat through a few different simulated courses out here in the ocean. I'll talk to you about what I find, we'll talk about the fuel flow and the speeds, and then you could decide if it's suitable for your boat life. Going through a few waves there from a Viking. My name's Dan Jones. Welcome to Dan's Boat Life. And yes, we're still in America. I like this place. I decided not to go home. I thought I'll just hang around for a little bit longer. I'm having a lot of fun. So we're just going to hook the boat through a turn right now. We're sitting on 29 knots today. We're talking knots, not miles. And I will be giving you fuel flow in gallons. This, as I said before, this is the Wellcraft 435. So if you've seen my other video of the Wellcraft 355, if you haven't, I'll leave a link in the description below. That is a real animal. That's a real animal of a boat. A lot of fun. I get the vibe that this is a bit of a step up in refinement, and it's clearly a step up in space. So what do I see, or who do I see that suiting? Perhaps some of you who have real holidays in mind. I did meet a whole bunch of you at the Newport, Rhode Island boat show, and you were looking at Wellcrafts, funnily enough. And more than one of you, and you gave me some ideas. So some of you were up there in Maine talking about zipping around and all the beautiful waterways they've got up there, but it was so important to be inside because it's cold up there. And then I went down to Key West to hang out with some buddies, and they've got an open boat. He's got a quad rig open boat. We went spearfishing. It was an awesome weekend. But he wants to do some real adventures and overnights with his partner. And so being in air conditioning and having overnight accommodation is also of great value. So I'm starting to join a few of the dots, and I see maybe quite a few of you guys are going to use a boat like this, position it, say, in Miami, and then run it down to Key West when the season suits you. So observations right now, I'm cruising at 29 knots, 4,900 revs, and I have a total fuel flow hovering from 58 to 60 gallons per hour. We're running 3 tanks on this boat, and she's 23,000 pounds, so that's about 10.5 tons for those of you speaking metric. We're running about 60% fuel on board today, and we've got 19.5 degrees dead rise and a full cutting bow, quite high side. So you'll see in the walkthrough video, separate to this one, that she is amazing in terms of the accommodation. So is it an adventure boat, or is it more than that? We'll talk about that in the walkthrough. But just going through a conservative heel angle of 29 knots right now, and I was going into the wind and into the chop before. My observations, first up, quiet. Just listen. I've got triple V10 350 Mercs running right now. I don't even need to raise my voice. You could be anywhere in this cabin and be incredibly comfortable. We're going to go through our waves right now, and then we're going to speed the boat up. Going through some waves in 3, 2, 1. Choppity chop. I'm taking them bow on. Yeah, very, very comfortable. So now I'm just going to increase, sitting on 30 knots going downwind. So I reckon, unlike the 355, I reckon you would cruise this boat at a slightly more conservative speed. So from that 29, 30 knots, at 4,900 revs. I've just jumped it up to 5,100 to 5,200 revs, and I'm getting 33 to 34 knots return on that, and a fuel flow of 55 gallons per hour. I reckon this is comfortable. Just look at the attitude of the boat. I've got zip wakes. You come standard with trim tabs. I've got the zip wake option on this one, and it's a loaded boat. We have Seakeeper, we've got a Jenny, it's got aircon, it's got all the gear, so we would be considered heavy and very comfortable. And the quietness is just that other thing that really sings out to me. So let's hook it through some turns now. We've got some waves from some other boats, so that's going to hit us at a funny angle right now. 3, 2, 1. Yep, that's okay. So through an aggressive heel to port, I lose a little bit of visibility, so make sure you check your sight lines before you go into a port side turn. Any design of cabin like this is going to do that for you. That's the price you pay for having a very sexy boat. I still find the standing position quite comfortable. I've got 2 footrests here, and I can even really sort of wedge my knee in here if I was in a seaway, and that's quite nice. And I like how the keys are in a position where my other knee is not going to hit them. So just coming through that turn, and let's increase the power now. Let's increase the power and increase the rate of turn. Oh, she's sporty. This is good fun. So you'll get a lot of kicks out of this. I've just increased that speed and the heel angle. I'm now doing 33 knots in the ocean through my own waves, a little bit of swell, but not very much, I've got to say. And through my waves, and I'm going to attack them from an awkward angle, boom, boom, totally fine. Now, we're going to go into the wind again. I'll do a couple more S turns before I then turn downwind and go full speed. So backing that, I'm going to slow it down now to somewhere like the 27 knot speed, and I'm just going to have a look at the bow raise. Okay, 27 knots, fuel flow of 53 gallons per hour, nothing too noticeable. So my visibility, even with this very high bow, is fine. It's not a problem. Let's just slow it down a tad more just for a second, see what happens. Okay, so at about 24 knots, I can see moderate bow raise. It's still not a hindrance to my visibility, so I don't actually see any issues there. And now let's just going into the wind, doing some S turns. So as you would expect, with quite a cutting bow at the front, 19.5 degree dead rise, and then from its beam, we've got quite high sides. I think if you tackle the waves at an inappropriate angle, you're going to hear it on the side of the boat. So just pay attention to that when you are driving. You can use the zip wakes or trim tabs to essentially get the right angle of attack into the waves, and just drive appropriate to the conditions. But that's perfectly doable. Now let's come downwind and we'll speed her up and we'll see what she is for full speed, wide open throttle on these V10 350 horsepower Mercuries, which look really, really nice, I have to say. So let's start increasing that speed. Okay. So I'm going downwind, 60% fuel, 5,600 revs. Going to go through some waves, so I'll accelerate after these waves. Waves in 3, 2, 1. Fine, not too aggressive. Now I'll accelerate. Okay, fuel flow is coming up for 80 gallons an hour. I've got 35 knots speed return and climbing, 36 knots. Just going to give the engines a little bit of a trim up. 5,700 revs. I'm not foot to the floor. Now that's full throttle, 5,800, 5,900 and climbing. A little bit of a trim up, 39.2 knots and climbing. My fuel flow, 87 gallons an hour. That'll send some Saudi kids to university. Fantastic. 6,200 revs at the moment. Let's see if we can get 6.3. That's going to be really quick for these motors. 6,200 revs on the center, 6,100 on the outside motors, 40.5 knots, 87 gallons an hour, and very comfortable. I would actually have to say this is luxurious. Wonderful. You're not going to drive around at this speed all day, but you certainly can do it. That is that is more refined than the 355. This is a boat that you're gonna live on from what I just felt there. Let's go inshore. We'll play with the slow speed maneuvering because we've got a side opening door. I'm a big fan of that. It's a big one. We've got the joystick, we've got the bow thruster. Visibility all around looks good. Stay tuned. We'll head inshore and we'll have a little bit of a play in a simulated parking scenario. So we've just come back into a protected part of the waterways here, just on the canal, slightly off the canal actually. I'm just gonna practice some transverse thrust, and one throttle forward, one throttle in aft. Got a little bit of tidal flow here I can see, and we'll just get the boat moving. Yeah, predictable, triple engines, kind of speed that up a little bit. So the middle engine goes out of gear and the two engines on the outside do the work in this maneuver. So that's perfectly fine. Now I'm just going to line the boat up. My visibility is good. Even though you can't see the engines across the back seat there, I think having the option to have it with the camera, seeing through here is fine. But obviously when you're just driving forward for a little bit, it's not really an issue. So now I'm going to just head over to joystick. So I've got a little bit of tide pushing me that way. So what I'm going to do is just slip the boat to starboard, and then I'm going to slip it back to port. Got a little bit of traffic around the place, so I'm just going to keep my eye on the building. I'm in 10 foot of water and slipping to starboard. Of all the joystick systems, the Mercury joystick is probably my least favourite, to be fair. I find the Yamaha a little bit more intuitive, but with 3 engines and on a heavy boat, it's actually not as bad as some of the boats I've tested. And when I say bad, it's not bad, it's just not as good as the Yami one. So that's pretty predictable. So let's just reverse our direction of travel. Okay, I've got a bit of movement there. So I think when you strap this system onto a heavier boat, oh, there we go. She's a little bit kinder to you. When you put it on the lighter boat, she has a tendency to want to do things that you were not expecting, and it can be a little bit unnerving, but that was okay. Now, make sure you hear me correctly on this. If you're using or buying a boat of this caliber, still definitely get the joystick system. Whenever you're selling the boat, people are going to want it. What I'm saying is the Mercury system is just not as intuitive as some of the other systems, so it just takes a second or two to get used to it. It's perfectly fine as an overall product. It's going to do the job for you. Okay, finally, it's the anchor. We operated it on the beach before, but we should do a little test just here. And you've got the control up at the bow, and you've got the control here as well. And I'll just go down and up again. Easy. So it's got the swivel from the stainless anchor to Gal chain. It's got the bow protector, the stainless steel bow protector, which I do think is a good idea. But just a little tip for you guys, any of these flat stem bow boats, if you are bringing the bow or the anchor up in some potentially rough water, in Sydney we have a lot of moving water and swell, just make sure you got like 1 foot aft momentum on the boat when you're raising the anchor, or when that anchor is coming out of the water. Then it's going to want to stay away from the boat as it comes up and reduce too much swing. So yeah, that's fine. So for operating this boat, close quarters maneuvering, obviously got the helm door here. I can leave, go forward, check and tidy up the anchor as well. We even deployed a stern anchor today and it was fine. No problems here. So that's it, ladies and gents. I hope that was valuable to you. The Wellcraft 435, who's it going to be suitable for? Who is it maybe not going to suit? And where do I see this one fitting in the market? I think it's definitely for the guys and girls, probably guys who have a specific mission set, like I led to earlier on in the video. If you are, northeast part of America, where I've just come from, up in Maine. If you're down here in Florida, I reckon Vancouver Island could be another location. Definitely Sydney, Auckland too. And you have a destination in mind that you want to go and enjoy for your holidays or your weekends, cruise at a pretty decent speed in that 29 to 33 knot cruising range and be comfortable out of the weather, be it cold or hot, enjoy a quiet ride, and then when you get to your destination, have a lot of accommodation on board to enjoy, whether you're plugged in at a marina or at a nice location like we are right here. If that's your mission set, I think this is a great boat for you. If you're wanting to just do the big massive day party boat thing, well then maybe there's not enough space on this boat depending on how big your family is. So just think about that. And if you want to look at the space, that's the separate video to this one. So yeah, if you are really looking at doing a little bit of offshore runs, cruising at the high speeds, wanting an aggressive look, a practical vibe as well for some of you, this will be a really cool boat. If you want to compare it to something similar, I'll pop a link up on the screen right now. Go ahead and watch that if it interests you. Don't forget to support the channel. Please get on to support my Patreon. I value every one of you. And give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Dan Jones is my name. You've been watching Dan's Boat Life. Thanks. See you on the next one.